In this video, I am bringing you all of my spoilery thoughts while reading The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk by Carissa Broadbent. This is the most recent release in the Crowns of Nyaxia world. It's the sequel to The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, which I read last year. I do have a reading vlog for that book, so I will leave that linked in the cards and in the description, just in case you haven't seen that yet. This video is going to contain spoilers for The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk and all of the books previously. In fact, I don't know whether it does contain spoilers for the other books, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video, if you've clicked on this video, then you want to hear all of my spoilery reactions. And I am filming this intro having already read the book. I explain this more in the vlog, but basically at the start of this month, I had a cold and I was feeling very sorry for myself. So I thought, what can I read that's going to cheer me up? But I know I'm going to read my most anticipated release of the second half of this year. And yeah, it was a disappointment. You're going to hear me rant quite a lot throughout this vlog, and I just wanted to set that expectations that I probably rant more in this vlog than I would have done in a vlog where I was feeling fit and healthy. I do go into all the details as to why this book didn't work for me, and I am going to be doing a spoiler-free review at the end of this month where I'll talk about, again, the reasons why I didn't like the book in a non-spoilery way. All of that rambling to say, let's get into the video. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book and what your thoughts were. I'm going to assume if you're watching this video that you have read the book because it contains spoilers, but let me know any of your thoughts and feelings. And yeah, thanks again for watching. So I actually wasn't planning on filming a reading vlog for The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk for two reasons. The main reason is I'm ill. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it in my voice, but I feel rubbish right now, so apologies if my thoughts aren't that coherent. The second reason is because this is my most anticipated book for the second half of the year, and I thought, why don't I just read it and enjoy it? And if I decide by the time I get to the end that I have things that I want to talk about, then I can just make a standalone review and it'll be fine, or I can just talk about it in a wrap-up. But I am at the end of part one and I already have stuff I want to talk about, namely that I'm really disappointed with the way that this book has started. Obviously things might change as we go through the book, but the ending of The Songbird and the Heart of Stone for me was so intense and twisty. There was so much that happened and I wanted that intensity to continue into this second book, and I just don't feel like that's what's happened. Like, The Songbird and the Heart of Stone literally ends with Misha dying, and then she comes to and Vincent is there and you're thinking, wait, what? And then Asar is with the gods in the White Pantheon, and I just think there was so much potential with this setup, and instead it's been rushed. Like, with the two main characters being separated, I expected that to remain for a while, and instead this first part, it just feels like convenience after convenience to get the two main characters back together, and I am just a little disappointed. Like, when Asar is in the White Pantheon, I thought that was a great opportunity for us to see more of the gods, and instead I felt like we were getting just little info dumps. There's one god in particular, the god of war or conflict, who we've now got a better understanding of. Can't remember their name, but we've got some information about them. And then I want to say their name is Acacia, the goddess, they're the goddess of fate, and they are the main goddess in Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. So it was really cool to see that name pop up again. But then it just feels really convenient the way that Asar manages to escape and then conveniently, oh, here's a direct route to the underworld so you can save Misha. I don't know why everything is being so rushed. And then with Misha, the few chapters that we've got from her, again, just a bit bored. Like, we've established that the underworld is falling apart, and so now it's up to Asar and Misha to save the world. Essentially, like, the sun has exploded, the world has been plunged into eternal darkness, and, you know, like, the actual, in terms of what's happening with the world and the stakes, it should feel high. I just feel like we're rushing through stuff, and like I said, convenience after convenience. What was the point of Vincent? I don't know if he's gonna have a significant role throughout the book, but it felt like he was brought in at the end of the last book for the shock factor, and he's not even really played much of a role in this first part. And now Misha has escaped from the underworld. I think there's been some discussion around how she's not technically alive, but she's escaped, and now Vincent has been left behind. So is that it for his character? Was his role just to be a little cameo? I don't know. I do know that I'm a little disappointed with the way that this book has opened. I'm just hoping that the relationship saves this book. I also feel like not enough, I mean, we've not even seen them interact yet, so maybe this is unfair of me to say at this point, but I'm hoping that we get some kind of conflict resolution, because both of them did some stuff at the end of the first book that the other person should be annoyed about, or they should at least resolve why they were holding stuff back. I don't want them to get together and be madly in love and for that to be the rest of the book, you know? I want to see them overcome what happened and, you know, work on their relationship. My feeling at the end of the first book is that they had bonded and they were starting to form this deep emotional connection, this relationship, but I don't want this book to start off with them being like so in love that nothing can break them, you know? Like, because I don't feel like that's realistic. Anyway, I've rambled enough. Not the best start, and I'm a little disappointed because this was meant to be another 5 stars, and I always say that Carissa Broadbent is one of my favourite fantasy romance authors. She's one of the few romantasy authors where I anticipate her next release. So I really hope this doesn't end up being a disappointment. So I have made it to the end of part 2 in The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk, and I'm still feeling disappointed that I'm not loving this as much as I loved the previous 3 books in this world. I think the plot is just fine, but it also feels like it's the same plot as the second book, and it's really difficult to not compare this to The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, which I loved. I think that's actually my favourite book in the series so far, and what I loved about that book was how we still had this great tension between the 2 main characters, and there is no tension between the characters in this book. They are together and they're happy, and I'm just a little bit bored. I think this is also the first Carissa Broadbent book I've read where there's been a spicy scene before the halfway point, and I'm just not that interested in it. I know this probably makes me sound, I don't know, but I'm just not that interested in a couple when they're together and happy, unless they're like a side couple. Misha in this book I'm just not liking as much as in the previous book. I feel like she's not really doing anything. I feel like a better plot for this would have been if the characters had been separated for just a little bit longer and Asar's POV had focused on the gods in the White Pantheon. The White Pantheon is against Nyaxia and they're using humans and vampires as their pawns. I think that is such an interesting development, and we're not really getting that. It's kind of happening in the periphery. So I would have preferred if Asar's POV and his chapters had focused on that, and then in Misha's perspective we could have had more to do with the underworld. I just don't really care about Asar's quest to become a god and ascend in that sense. I'm finding it quite boring that it seems the plot for this is them trying to find these pieces of Alaric, because I'm fairly sure that was the plot of the second book. I feel like we're just going from stage to stage and it's not really gripping me. I mean, it is because I'm reading it quickly, but I'm not feeling invested in anything. I'm feeling like I'm just reading it to get to the next thing. I don't know what else to say at this point. I'm 40% of the way through, so the next time I check in with you will be once I'm past the halfway point. I'm at the end of part 3, which I think is about the 60% mark, and I'm starting to question whether it's me. Am I the problem? Should I have reread the first book in this duet before reading the sequel? But I don't think that's the problem. I read Songbird and the Heart of Stone less than a year ago, so I can still remember most of it. I haven't been this disappointed reading a sequel since Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, which if you don't know, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo I gave 5 stars, and then Hellbent I gave a 2 stars. I actively hated it. I was disappointed then, I'm disappointed now. I'm also still ill, just in case you can't hear it in my voice, which I think is why I'm even more annoyed, because this should have been the perfect book to read while getting over a cold, because I usually love reading romantasy or, you know, lighter books. This isn't exactly light, but you know what I mean? Like, this should have been the perfect book to read while I'm ill, and I'm just not enjoying anything about it. I feel like I don't have anything positive to say, other than I like that we're getting a SARS POV as well as Misha's. The big issue that I'm having is that I don't like the relationship. Like, I'm feeling absolutely nothing towards this romance, and it's such a shame because I loved the romantic tension in the previous book. I think what's happened is at the end of the previous book, we had Misha and Asar confessing their feelings for one another. They consummated stuff, and then we had this big, epic, intense ending, which to me just feels, now having started this second book, it feels like that was kind of pointless. Like, the characters were separated for all of, what, 100 pages? Like 15% of this first book, and then they're back together, and it's not just that they're physically back together, emotionally they are together. The only thing preventing them from being together is Misha being a wraith, which it just feels a bit convenient. Like, we've still had 2 spicy scenes before the halfway point, and they just did absolutely nothing to develop the romance. Like, this relationship to me feels like it's hit a brick wall, and there's nothing further to come in terms of the emotions. Like, they would be together if Misha wasn't dead. Like, they would actually be together. Misha and Asar not being able to physically touch is not maintaining tension for me, and I think that was the purpose of it. I think that was written into the story so that it would try and prolong the tension a little bit longer, but it's not doing that for me, because in their minds they're together, they love each other, but we're not getting any deep emotional conversations. We're not seeing any real quieter moments with them. It's just all a bit bland, and the plot isn't really anything special. I think what would be more interesting is if we were focusing on the gods and the politics there, or this war that's supposedly happening between the vampires and the humans, but we're not getting any of that. We're just on this very bland, boring mission to get these artifacts. Going back to Misha and how she is supposedly dead, you know, conveniently she can still drink from Asar whenever she wants, or that's how it feels now. Like, the first time she drank from him, it seriously weakened him to the point where he had to be put in the magic bathtub, but now it seems like she can just drink from him whenever she wants. And they were on this mission to the Deadlands, and Asar was observing that Misha seemed to be struggling, but then she still had enough strength to fight off a god. So, like, it all just feels a bit convenient. The cameos that we've had from characters from previous books have also, to me, felt kind of pointless. They are just cameos. Like when Rain showed up at the House of Shadow, that could have been a great moment, and instead it just felt a bit pointless. Like, he showed up, he was saying to Misha, I'm gonna get you out of here because, you know, you're my friend, I care about you. Great, like, I already know that they're friends. It ended with Misha using compulsion to send him away, so there are probably going to be other repercussions for that, but I think I could have done without that, honestly, unless Rain was there to interact with Asar. You know, I think that would have been much more interesting to see them interact, because we've not really seen them interact. In fact, we haven't seen them interact, but we've seen Rain and Misha's friendship in previous books. Rain wasn't even in the last book, so what was the point in him being in this book other than to say, oh, he's shown up, remember, Misha and Rain are friends. And then we also had Atreus and Selena from Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. They made an appearance, and again, what was the point of that? I think there was a missed opportunity there because we had one brief conversation between Selena and Misha where they were both talking about religious trauma, because in both of their books, or in Songbird and the Heart of Stone and in Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, that's what I loved about those two characters, is that they were both missionaries, if that's the right word, or acolytes. They both had this faith that was being tested and that they were having to challenge certain ideas that they held, and I thought that was handled so well in both books. But in this book, they came together and they had a very brief conversation, and that was it. Like, what was the point of Selena and Atreus being in this book? Because I think they've gone now. They've just ran away, left them, and I don't know if they're even going to show up again in this book. I know that the next duet or duology is going to be focusing on the House of Blood, so I don't know whether they're going to make a reappearance there, but I'm just not enjoying it. I actually was considering DNFing, but because this is a series where up until this point I've given every single book, even the novella, I've given every single book set within this world either 4 or 5 stars. 4 to 5 stars, because I think some of them I gave a 4.5. I did not see this come in, and I'm really disappointed because I think this is going to get 2 stars, and I'm now questioning, do I even bother reading the Bloodborne saga duet, whatever it's called? I don't know, because I'm just not having a good time, and I don't think I would be having a good time even if I'd reread the first book. I still don't think I would feel invested in this relationship, which is just not developing any further. We have tension that feels manufactured, it feels convenient. Spicy scenes aren't doing anything for me, the world isn't developing any further, and the plot is repetitive. So I am going to finish this at some point over the weekend. I don't know if I'm going to check in with you before I get to the end. I haven't even seen any other reviews for this yet. I had a quick look on Goodreads, but I could only find very short reviews from ARC readers. None of my friends have read this yet, so I don't know what the general consensus is. I don't know if people are enjoying this or whether it's just me. This is going to be one of my most disappointing books of the year, and I did not see that come in. I have reached the end of part 4 in The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk, which is about the 80% mark. I think this is going to be my final update before I finish this. I think I've got about an hour and a half left, so I should finish it this evening and then I can bring you a final update maybe tomorrow. My voice, I think, is a little bit croaky today. That was my air freshener, if you just heard that. I'm determined to finish this because I'm so close to the end and I just want it to be over now, which I know is a really sad thing to be saying. I'm just so disappointed that I'm not enjoying this book. I did enjoy the pacing a bit more in that last section. I think it had a good mix of action and slower moments. It's interesting that a lot of the critiques I have of this book are critiques that I heard for the previous book. When Songbird came out, I can remember hearing people say that they found it a bit tedious and that they didn't like how there were these dramatic moments that would very quickly be resolved within a few pages, and I'm feeling that a little bit with this book. Not even a little bit, I'm feeling that a lot with this book, that there are these conveniences, things seem to be resolved so quickly. This section ends with Asar receiving the heart of, what's his name? There's so many male characters in this series that have names beginning with the letter A, and it's confusing. So he's received the heart of the god of death, and his memory has been taken over, or he's been taken over. We saw he was kind of being influenced by these relics anyway. In my opinion, that's not something that should be happening at the 80% mark in the final book, because it's going to be resolved by the end of the book. We've got 20% now to resolve that, as well as everything else that's going on, and it just feels a bit rushed. Like a lot of this book, it feels very rushed and like we're just going through the motions. What I've loved about the previous books is the romance, and I don't really like the trope of characters who are so in love that they would burn down the world for each other. I like it, I like the idea of it, but in principle I find it more my kind of thing when characters are torn between the person that they love and saving the world. There's been parts where Asar has said that he doesn't care about, well, not that he doesn't care about the underworld falling apart, but that he cares more about Misha. And I don't feel like
that should be the case. I feel like both Misha and Asar should care about the underworld more. That should be their priority over their relationship, and that's just not happening. It doesn't endear me to the characters. It doesn't make me want to root for their relationship when they care so much about their relationship and everything else is falling apart. It was nice in a way to revisit the House of Night and to see Araya and Rain again, but I didn't find it believable at all that Misha, initially she was very reluctant to ask for their help. I don't understand that. I don't like it when characters are self-sacrificing in a way, or where they're thinking to themselves, I'm not going to tell this person that I really care about and who really cares about me this really important thing that has happened to me. I'm not going to tell them because I care about them so much that I don't want to drag them into this mess. No, that's not realistic. If you care about someone and you know that they care about you, why would you not want to confide in them? And obviously she did eventually, but only through a lot of prodding and pulling, and it annoyed me. Everything does feel like it's being resolved so easily, and there have been so many conveniences. Like, it really wound me up, the Asar with the mask and the eye. There was enough power for him to bring Misha back from the dead, just enough so that they were able to sleep together, but not enough for her to be not in danger anymore. There's so many situations in this that are making me roll my eyes. There was so much potential with this book, and it just is boring. That is the main issue that I'm having, is that I'm bored and I don't care. I have a prediction that this final conflict is going to involve, obviously, bringing Asar back to himself, but also there's some stuff going on with the gods and Shiket. I think I might have mentioned them earlier. They are the god of justice, and oh, that was another thing that I found kind of pointless, is one of the, are they called sentinels? One of Shiket's followers turned out to be Misha's sister, and I thought, what was the point of that? Like, bringing back this character, everything with that had kind of been resolved in the last book. That's the last thing, I promise, in this section that I wanted to complain about. But yeah, I'm going to see how this ends. I think I've got 2 parts left, but I'm not going to bother checking in with you after the next part, I don't think. I'm going to finish this in an hour and a half, so I might as well finish it and then give you my final thoughts. I have now finished The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk by Carissa Broadbent. I actually finished this a few days ago, but I wanted to take some time to collect and process my thoughts, and also I feel like I've recovered now from the cold that I had last week, so hopefully my voice isn't as scratchy. You can tell I've edited the footage already. You can tell that I was not having a good time last week, and I think maybe my expectation for this book was too high, but a lot of the issues that I had were personal preference type things. For example, I still think the main characters should have been separated for much longer, at least 40 to 50% of the book, but I know that some people are going to disagree with me because I have seen reviews for other books where that has happened and people haven't liked it, so I get it. Like, there's certain things that I wanted that are not going to be issues for other people. I still like Carissa Broadbent's prose. I think that she's very talented at crafting a sentence with a lot of atmosphere. I generally like her descriptions. Sometimes I struggle to picture stuff, but my issue wasn't with the prose or even, the writing. It was the structure. I would have preferred for Asar to stay within the White Pantheon to then escape, maybe go back to the House of Shadow and get involved with Nyaxia and this war. I think that would have been a more interesting plot than this quest. Like, the quest to get the crown, the heart and the eye felt pointless to me. I think that should have just been completely cut. Misha could have then spent a bit more time in the underworld with Vincent, maybe trying to resolve what was happening there. Maybe once she got out of the underworld, she could have gone straight to the House of Night to ask for help from Araya and Rain, and then somehow Misha and Asar could have been reunited. I think that would have just built a bit more romantic tension for me, and also it would have developed the parts of the plot that I actually found the most interesting. I did not care about this quest at all. It felt so boring. The last 100 to 200 pages I thought were the best part of the book, but by that point I was struggling to care. So it is a shame. I wonder whether I will feel differently when I reread the series. At the moment I am still planning on reading the Bloodborne duet. I don't think the first book comes out for another year or so. My
plan is to potentially reread at least the core 4 books in the series so far before I read the Bloodborne duet. I think I'm going to wait until that's a completed duet, and at least then that will give me the best possible chance of liking it. I'm really hoping that that's a slow burn, like a proper slow burn. The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, I think, did it reasonably well, and I liked Misha and Asar in that book, and I still liked them in this book. It was just certain things to do with the structure. I've already talked about it. I don't need to rant anymore, so I am going to wrap up this reading vlog here. Please let me know in the comments if you've read this book, any thoughts and feelings you had about it. The main reason I've decided to put this vlog out is because I have not seen many negative reviews so far, and I have no one to talk to about this book in terms of how disappointed I was. Let me know in the comments any of your thoughts and feelings, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye.